Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have a top 16 breakdown for Sully Abode's 5K New Year tournament they had in the Midwest this past weekend. It was a pretty sizable event, over 160 players with this top 16 here, what we see here today, and just big shouts for them for giving me the list for this event. It's a really cool one to go over, and I do know that we have the Card Fest at the end of the month too. A lot of people are getting ready for that event in general, and just more data is just better for that, and I appreciate being able to cover this event as well. So we're going to just jump on into it. We do have this top 16. Again, we had just around 160 players. And with this leader breakdown too, we do get this, which we don't always get for some of the events that we cover here. But we had in the top 16, 9 Sakazukis, 3 Enel, 2 Charlotte Katakuris, 1 of the red-purple Star Deck 10 Trafalgar Laws, and 1 copy of the purple Luffy. So moderately diverse outside of that first half with Sakazuki. He's been doing really, really well. I don't think that's a big surprise for a lot of people. And something that's kind of important too is that just seeing the breakdown from Sakazuki to from the total people running him to the big amount he is in the top 16 itself. So I think what 25% to just over a 50% conversion is pretty good, almost a 2-for-1 percentage wise, which is strong for it. And then we have Enel, which is about the same, about where he's at there. Purple Luffy doing a little bit under. We have Katakuri doing a little bit over. Red Purple Law doing about the same, and then kind of going from there. So I don't think anyone would argue these are probably at least 4 or 5 of the strongest decks in this kind of meta right now. I think Sakazuki, Enel, and Katakuri are definitely the big 3 for right now. Purple Luffy's kind of trailing a little bit behind from them, and then there's kind of a bit of a toss-up for what's the 5th best leader in this game right now. But we do have the deck list here. We are missing a couple as of this recording for a couple of Sakazukis for both Joshua as well as Brian, but I will be adding those as soon as I get those as well. So it should be pretty cool. We're going to go into our first place list. So this is Ryan's copy of Enel. And if you guys have been watching my live streams this week, you know that I've been doing a lot of testing with Enel specifically, and this is moderately similar to what I've been playing. I think most people are on the idea of the more of the Sky Island package. I know there's a lot of very loud people who are into the big mom version. They think that one's better, and I don't think it's enough to say definitively that I think it's wrong to play one or the other, but I also just personally play this version as well. I do like having a good amount of copies of Shirahoshi and Shura, and I think more people are starting to add this card back into the deck just because it's really great for helping us find our Yamatos late game. Sometimes we literally don't have anything better to do on turn 5, and being able to get that cycle I think is really important, since we do have more chances to trigger cards from our life than average, I feel like, than other leaders, which is great. 4 copies of Shura, so maybe a little bit too much between the two of them, but that's fine. We have the Ohm Holy package, which isn't too surprising, the Gadatsu, and a now 1 copy of Charlotte Linland, which is fine. I don't run this, but I think it's this is the most requested card for the builds that I make right now, and I do see the value of adding 1 or 2 copies of it, so I think that's fine there. 4 Katakuri, 4 Yamatos, and then 3 of the 200 million volts, and only 1 copy of the Thunderbolt. So honestly, I've been running this card at 3, but outside of the random time that it's in my life every once in a while, I generally don't have the need to run it. So I could see myself taking out a copy or 2 of this card specifically. I think there could be better ones, but I also run El Thor, which is fine. I know some people don't run that, and I think it's just also a bit of a decision card, but I also like the card for, it's pretty easy to stay at one Dawn open a lot of the time too, which is kind of nice. So, but I think this is a pretty solid build. It's pretty similar to what I've been running, and I've been finding a lot of success with it. So congratulations to Ryan for their finish there. Next up, we have Reynaldo with their Sakazuki, and obviously there's a lot of Sakazuki builds to go over. If you guys want to check your own, go for it. This one had a couple of I would say unique adds to it, a lot of interesting one-ofs, and I think that's kind of important for a deck like this that generally has what it, the builds are pretty common, right? There's a lot of cards that you can say, and you can say, okay, this is the extension of this deck, because generally they do not run any additional cards. But there are a couple one-ofs here. I'll go down kind of from the bottom, but we have Soap Sheep, give 1 up to 2 of your opponent's characters -2 cost during this turn, which is very good for helping get things into range for your Rob Lucci. We have 1 Luffy, which is just a 3/5, which I don't know why they're running this one. There are Navy 3/5s, which are fine, findable with brand new, but guess I wanted to run the Luffy instead. There's also the Uta from the film starter deck, or not the film starter deck, but the Luffy starter deck there. Can't be KO'd by battle against leaders, and then also activate main. You can rest this character, give up to one of your opponent's characters -2 for the turn. So this can be like kind of weird to get rid of at times. So I could see this being like a nice little like one of for getting things into -2. There's also Belmere. You rest this character, give up to one of your opponent's characters -1 for the cost. Then your leader up to one of your characters gains +1 for this turn. So it is essentially like being able to play it for 1, give something -1 cost, but also it's kind of like a mini version of how it plays, I guess. It's an interesting card. I don't see it get a lot of use, but that does obviously help you in getting things in range too. So it's an interesting add. And then lastly, we have our Kaido and our Draco Mihawk. I've been liking the idea of Mihawk more and more for this deck because it is such a powerful card. It really just gets rid of anything on the board. With leader effect, it gets rid of an 8 or less, and it's not too difficult for make it a 10 or less, which is great for just the value for a lot of mirror matches, because we do not see any copies of Borsalino, which I think a lot of people usually run in this build, but just the one Mihawk is an interesting add. Sabo, I really like. I think this needs to be like a 2 or 3 of in most decks, personally. I know it's not used in everything, but that's a personal choice for that one as well. So honestly, one of the more unique versions of Sakazuki. I've been seeing a lot of this build in the last couple weeks, and congratulations to Reynaldo for their second place finish there. Next up, we have some Katakuri. So we have Logan's as well as Abdurrahim's version of the deck. So we're just going to go over both of them pretty quickly. A little bit of comparing and contrasting on some of the card choices for them. So for first up, we have for Logan, just I would say a generally safer build. Are just more standard for it. Just a lot of our top end 3 Linlands, 3 Katakuris, and 4 of the 10 drop. We have a 3-3 split between the Thunderbolt and the 200 million volts, and then we also have like a good amount of Gadatsus. We don't have like the Ohm and Holy package, but we do have a lot of our Big Bomb Pirates. Probably the most interesting choice is Charlotte Smoothie, which I do like this card being able to get down to 1 life to be able to use our 200 million volts is usually pretty strong for us, so I like the idea for it. It also is just a card you can play for free off of our life as well. I know a lot of people are using Charlotte Cracker too, but I think both are okay. I think Cracker's probably usually the more standard choice, but again, like Smoothie for that extra power and getting down to specific amounts of life to, again, play 200 million volts, I think is very strong. So that's kind of like the idea for Logan's build, and then we also have an additional build here. So this is Abdurrahim's, and so this is running the Charlotte Cracker as well. They are running like 4 copies of Thunderbolt and 2 of the 2 million volts and a copy of Yamato. So a little bit more of options for what this deck can do. A little bit more variety for it, which can help some of the tougher matchups, but also can hurt your consistency at the same time. So kind of that ebb and flow for those decisions there. But honestly, kind of what we've been seeing, and I think that both decks are very strong in their own right. I would probably lean more towards Logan's build specifically, but I do like the adds of here. I do like the 1 copy of Yamato is like a backup copy of 10-drop Linlan at times, and there are sometimes Yamato can get like a good like 2 for 1 and get a lot of value. So like all these ads, and congratulations to both of our Katakuri players. Next up, we have Nathan with their Red Purple Law, and this one's been, I think, okay for what it is. I think Law is probably one of 2 or 3 leaders that could be in the 5th best spot in this card game at this current meta, but it is a deck that does have a lot of removal and a lot of potential for a lot of like pressure, a lot of 5k pressure specifically. So I do think that it can do well against Sakazuki if you're able to go quickly enough, but at the same time, there's a lot of ways for you to get your cards removed, and you run out of steam really quickly in this deck, specifically because your opponent will generally not want to attack you yourself, so they won't be giving you extra cards from your life, and then also you just don't get a lot of card draw, and you lose a lot of Dawn too with your leader effects as well. So again, you're really tempo based. There are a lot of decisions to do that. There are like the adds of like some blockers to the Law. I think makes sense because you can play it for free. I really like the Useless Captain Kid as well, because you are able to use it to help. Your leader effect is now only Dawn -2, which is a big difference for you. And then also the Ace is such a good card. It is very expensive for this deck, especially since you don't get Rush with it either. So you have to pretty much play it for 7 outright, which there are a lot of games that I've finished and won with Law without ever getting to 7 Dawn, so it is quite expensive. But this is looking like just a really kind of more removal-based version, because we also have 3 copies of Fire Fist, 3 copies of Gamma Knife, and 4 copies of Round Table. So a lot of ways to get removal, a lot more than I usually see, and then some ways to recur with Trafalgar Law. No copies of Queen, which is interesting, because I know a lot of people use those to at least go, like, it's a Dawn -1, but you do get to net 1 extra card, which is nice. And just a lot of interesting choices too. So interesting deck, and congratulations to Nathan for their finish there. And to wrap it up, we do have our Purple Luffy. This is by Alec, and we haven't been seeing as much Purple Luffy as I feel like I've been seeing previously. It's been in an okay spot, all things considered, but I kind of entered the meta with this being one of my favorite decks in the meta, and the more I played it and the more I realized that it has like a pretty rough match against Sakazuki at times. Honestly, just the worst it felt. So I do think there are some good choices for it, being able to use the Miss Double Finger to help us ramp, especially if it hits off of life. Also being able to play page 1 as well to get that 2-for-1 helps you get that pressure, which is really difficult for some decks to overcome. And then we also have like the Poly, the Captain Kid and Queen, which is a good combo. 2 copies of King, 3 copies of this Kaido, which I personally think this is the best card for the leader. If you can like quickly ramp up to this Kaido and then play it and then attack with it, I think you're in a really good spot. But without it, like you just kind of run out of steam as well. So I honestly feel like you almost need to run this at 4 copies just to make sure that you can consistently like have it, like having a 10k body out, 2 turns above curve and start attacking with it. Your opponent's going to have a really hard time removing it, I feel like. So I think that's a really good card for the deck, and just really helpful as well. And then some Jet Gadlings and Sheep Horns, but honestly, just what we've been seeing, nothing too spicy. I don't see Kings as much as I used to. This means we have a lot of 4-drop removal between the Poly and itself. And the Magellan can be such a nasty card, especially against Enel. I think this deck does have a good matchup specifically against Yellow and Enel, because if you have Magellan, it keeps them off their curve. You have a lot of pressure that's really difficult for them to answer, and they will never ever want to get rid of this Magellan because it just sets them back another whole turn, which is really good for Luffy. So I think that's a really good add for the deck too. So that's the list there, and congratulations. So that's going to be it for this breakdown. If you guys want to see any of the deck lists, they're in here on my website, which is linked in the description. And again, thank you to Sully Abode for running the event and reaching out with the deck list as well. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.
Damn it.